after the cover. First, after the cover. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. So actually, what makes a business story different than a technical story or a lab story? That's the question, to be or not to be. A business story is not only a technical explanation. As we see, this is a major shift from researchers and technical founders within the lab mindset. We explain what we build, we talk about the research, we show data, we describe features, but in the market mindset, the audience asks different questions. Where does the value come from? How can this value grow? How will this team realize this value? For example, if Leanheat, a company that builds AI sensors, says, we use AI and sensors, that is very technical language. But if Leanheat wants to adapt a story, craft a business story, they will start with, we are in the business of helping building owners reduce heating costs and emissions. Now we hear real value. There is the shift. Not only what it is, what we do, but why it matters. And one more question before we go to the next slide. Once the audience understands the value, think, what do we want them to do next? And next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Now it's visible?
Yes, please. Thank you. What is the real goal of a pitch? And I have a question. What is the next action I want? What is the next action I want from my audience? My audience, you will hear me talking about audience, means the people on the other side of the table to whom you direct your pitch, for whom you are building a pitch deck, which is, again, not only an investor, it could be a partner, it could be a supplier, it could be even a top hire. You need to take them through the journey of your mission and vision and explain them what is it in it for them and how you capture value in your business and where do you see your company in the next 5 years. So you'll hear me saying audience. You will think about all these 3, 4, 5 categories that could sit on the other side of your table one day, and you must be prepared to deliver them a business story, not a technical story. So the goal of the pitch is not to explain everything. The goal is to earn the next step. The aim of a pitch is the next step because you can't really bring in all the information from your data room, all the technical sheets from the lab, all the research results that you have done for validating the market size. A pitch is the bridge to the next conversation, as I said, and a good pitch creates enough clarity and curiosity for someone to say, yes, I want to know more. And one more question. So why the many technical founders lose the next step? You will see here I mentioned the core insight. A good pitch creates enough clarity and curiosity. You will need to bring in and to instill that curiosity at every step of your journey. So for each slide you are building, please don't imagine that building 50 slides will take you to the next step or will spark more curiosity in 50 slides than in 15 slides. No, we will learn here that we will not need more than 15 slides, and I will tell you why. And each slide will have a focused meaning and a substance over form. So we will not need more than 15 slides going forward. And next slide, please. And yeah, next slide, please.
Trying. Sorry, I was shit.
No
I have
worries.
I have to go on a portion of screen instead and be better. It's otherwise it's just not quite loading fast enough. Let me know when you see the whole screen. Is the whole screen now
Mm,
visible?
no, it's kind of to the left and to the right, and we are still on slide 3, so you need to go
Oh
to
yeah.
next slide, please. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I have a question for you. Why do technically strong founders still lose customers, partners, or investors? So I've seen, I'm telling you from experience, mentoring and mass challenge, Brain Forest, Founder Institute. There are very strong teams coming. There are many PhD graduates or undergraduates coming with extremely good patent strategies for their technology, but they are still stuck in the customer proposal loops, not managing to secure next meeting with investors. And why is that actually? Well, there is the communication gap. As I tried here to show what are the weaknesses, the issue is usually not the intelligence of the founders, of the person who is proposing this business story. And the business story, it could be better if it would be structured for decision making. The founder may use overly technical language to explain the details, but we are missing that arguments, that anchors, that the other side of your table, the audience, could have a structure in order to assess what you have presented and make a decision. It's a yes or a no. They may be giving too many details too early. They may be assuming too many possibilities that we will not know what's the next straightforward path strategy. We can say we can do this and that and that and that and that, and it's a never-ending story. But then coming back to today, within the next 18 months, what's next? What we're gonna do? Because you present it as a full spectrum of possibilities, we got lost. So I'm going to introduce you next the value logic that will stand strong for a pitch deck of 15 slides, and also for the Q&A, where you must be extremely well prepared, and for your audience to come back and forth with small questions, big questions, probing questions, due diligence questions. You must be able to clarify all questions that they may have. And this is interesting, but it's not yet understandable as a business, because you may fall into giving in a trap of giving too many details, and too much detail will cost you a lot of time. You are burning those minutes, and everybody has a short attention span. We learn from biology that golden fish has a 16 seconds attention span. Then I ask you, what do you think a human attention span is according to statistics? We got to know we have 7 seconds attention span, so less than a golden fish attention span for humans. We have to be very careful how many details and how granular we go when we explain a process. We need to understand that we can give only headlines, and we can talk into an issue later on if people will say, yes, I want to hear more, let's fix another meeting. Next slide, please. How do we organize a pitch so the value becomes clear? I should not go also into too many details, because I should be very mindful about our time here. And let's go to some very interesting facts here. Where does value come from in a business? How does it grow, and how will it be realized? The truth is, a pitch is not a slide sequence. as I mentioned, we need only 15 slides, that's it. It is structured value argument, actually. And it is not just a list of slides, it is a structured argument about a value that comes in 3 layers. And here we go, the source of value, where you have the problem solution and the underlying magic. We're gonna go a little bit in detail to understand that. We have the potential of value, the market, competitive positioning, the business model. And we will go a little bit deeper into that as well. And then the realization of value. What this business can become in the next 5 years. We will talk about milestones, we'll talk about the team, and of course, the financial part and the proposal that we have to send across to the other side of the table, what we want them to do next. Well, here you got it, the full 360-degree story where value starts, how we grow, and how it becomes real. And where does value usually begin? That would be your next legitimate question. So what we will start with. Next slide, please. Well, in this situation, we have a question. Who is hurt? What is lost? Why does it matter? The truth is that the problem is the first source of value. The bigger the problem you identify for your customer, the problem you're gonna solve, the problem for which you found the solution, the bigger the interest will be from the other side of the table. And it means you found something big, you are sitting on a gold mine, and everybody would like to be part of it because you found a way to solve that problem. You have the solution. So the value begins with the problem you are going to solve, not with the patent, not with the technology. Funny enough, a strong problem is specific, it is painful, it is urgent, and ideally it can be measured. For example, we mentioned in our lesson number 2 a company named Agrina. The problem was not a simple problem. There was not about agriculture must become sustainable. It was an agri-tech company. That is true, but not that's too broad. Yeah, agriculture must become sustainable would be too broad. So if you start with a very scientific approach, and it will be also a very scientific solution, we will not understand who is hurt and how you could go deeper into that vertical. So in their case, in the Agrina case, you will find this in our course. I invite you to go to the platform. You will see that a farmer may need to improve soil quality, reduce plowing. They need to plant cover crops in between seasons. They need to buy extra seeds. They need to change routine and carry transition costs before new income appears. And who has to do that? A farmer who is also not educated about unit economics. He is not trained to think in a time lapse of 3, 4, 5 years. They have a real pain because it affects farmer cash flow. The simple fact that somebody that through the European Union regulations, we are forced to go through all these steps to include in our daily farming activities agricultural sustainable practices. And it affects how the farmer will run his farm for seasons. This business is seasonal, if you can call a farm a business, but it has to be a business because they have to earn money. So farmers are very confused. They don't know how to do it. And we can ask who is affected more than the farmer. There are also the customers affected, because if the farmer is not doing well to bring the crops to come to the end and in autumn to ripe all what we are sowing, then there will be no produce on the market. So what is lost? We can lose a lot, actually, if farmers become confused. And what happens if nothing changes? Then there is the transition question, how they can do everything in once and how we can secure for them a very smooth process. So we help them and guide them through this journey. This is, I wanted to come more into detail here, because when you are going to explain the problem, you really need to dig deep and you really need to bring the problem at your customer, at a party that is going to pay for your solution. And in so many cases, I've seen pitches that build a problem slide on a very abstract level, thinking in terms of system, thinking in terms of macro level, climate change, and we still don't know, we can't identify what's the real problem, the core problem, deep down at the customer level. And Jamal can confirm, because he has seen this so many times, as many times as I did. So please, let's go to the next slide. When does a solution become valuable, actually? Now we have to mirror what we have found in the process of discovering the problem. We need to mirror one by one features that we will explain about our solution. What changes for the customers because this solution exists? The truth is, a solution is valuable only when it creates a measurable benefit. That means the solution is valid only and only if it can demonstrate that we are changing something for the customer. As I mentioned, that farmer going with a greener, they found features. They found that they can benefit from that technology. They found a way they can work through the seasons with so many changes, but there will be a benefit. There will be a guarantee that they can have profit. They can cultivate the land. They can also secure produce at the customer. So for a greener, the feature is the satellite and AI-based soil carbon verification. But the benefit is not we use satellite technology. It's not the satellite technology as a benefit that they are selling. The benefit is we must demonstrate that we help farmers turn verified soil improvement into carbon certificate income. So we have to close the loop. We have to bring in the argument that our customer will benefit of increased income if we are using this technology. And that's the solution. On the other hand, I mentioned the Lean Heat company. The feature is AI heating optimization, but the benefit is building owners can reduce wasted energy, lower the cost, and cut emissions. Why should anyone believe this venture has an edge? Actually, we managed to nail problem and solution, but in the real life, when you talk with an investor, you receive many probing questions, actually. So that is the moment they will test your long-term strategy. And then before they will ask you about how big is your market and what's your financial projection for the next 5 years, what's your team, there will be a very, very sensitive point, strategic moment when you need to talk about your technology. Next slide, please. And I always love the Guy Kawasaki theory because he's mentioning about the underlying magic. And long before everybody was doing pitch clinics, pitch assessment scores, readiness scores. Together with Jamal, we used to support founders, and we took actually pen and paper, black on white and red, Guy Kawasaki guidelines of 15 pitch decks and the golden rule of 15 pitch decks. And we always had to explain over and over again the underlying magic. Actually, you can't make the full story, this 360-degree coverage of your business story, if we are missing to explain the source of value, which is the underlying magic of your technology. The underlying magic is the valuable new thing behind the solution. So how this solution is going to work and stay relevant within 18 months, 5 years, 10 years. So supposedly you are building now, but then your company can be reaching an IPO stage, a unicorn stage. It can be sold on the secondary market. It can go in merger and acquisition. Your company could acquire someone because the market is so hot and you want that market, that category, so you acquire a smaller company. That is the technology that stands, the proof of time, right? So then your investors will ask why this company is the best company to work with this technology, to exploit this technology. And the next strategic question and difficult question to answer is this difficult to copy? We know that copycats can't go too far. So there will be many other strategic questions, but I will not have the time to go too much into detail. But then you will need to just prove that you have the right data, you have the right IP strategy, there is the know-how, you know the process, the model, a certification of your model, you have a brand, you have a distribution channel. For example, you will find in the course, and again, I invite you to go through the course, as Alexandra mentioned. For Biosynthia, you will find this company in the course. The value is not only that it makes vitamins, the deeper advantage is the precision fermentation and a microbe engineering capability that can replace petrochemical synthesis with traceable bio-based ingredients. Another company that you will find as a real life example is Infinite Roots, where their value is not only alternative protein, it is mycelium fermentation, which is combined with a B2B, business to business model, ingredient route, and food manufacturing partnership. Then the underlying magics in all cases show why those companies have an advantage. It is very important. You see, we are already slide 3. We need to prove so many things, and we have a hot potato in our hands. We don't know what to do with it. We really need to prove the stamp of time that your company has an advantage and you own this technology strongly enough to go from now in 10-year time and hit 100 million company valuation, let's put it this way. Now that we know where value begins, we ask the question, how big this company can become. I just mentioned it's probably 100 million company valuation your target. If it's not yet, it should be. And by when you can reach that. Next slide, please. I am not going to present this slide as tam, sam, som, as you all know. This is overused, and I think you will find those explanations everywhere else. I'm very happy to talk about how do we show the opportunity is real and reachable. Because when I'm assessing pitch decks, I could assess yours. Please don't hesitate to send me your pitch deck. When I look at the market size, I just have one question in mind. And normally, each slide should manage to answer one important question. And if that question is 100% covered and fully answered in full, then you will reach many yeses. You will get a lot of curious people to learn more, and you will have many meetings with potential partners, with top hires, and with investors. So let's see what we can do about the market, how to treat it, because in my opinion, now an easy way is to find tam, sam, som with the AI. You go to Claude, you go to ChatGPT, you tap in your vertical and you get all these numbers. But they do not show anything important. They will not teach you anything important about your segment, about your vertical. You will get just a generic market size, which is non-important at your investor conversation. And many people fail badly with that. Because in this slide, when I'm looking at a marketing slide or a market size, marketing strategy or a market size slide, we should not fail to show the potential of the value we're going to capture. It's everything about capturing value, actually. You are allowed to say the climate market is worth billions. I'm not saying don't start with big numbers. You need to go tam, sam, som, as I mentioned before. You are allowed to start with big numbers, but that is not enough. You need to show the market you can actually reach. There are 3 levels here, as you have this infographic up there. First is the big trend. And we explain, for example, the net zero, the regenerative agriculture, the clean ingredients, big market size, global market, the energy efficiency, global market of food system transition, depends on your vertical. But secondly, we need to show the addressable market, which is part of that trend, which is relevant actually for your solution. And what is your serviceable market? We need to also build a bottom-up strategy. Who can you sell to first? For Agrina, for example, our case study, which you will find in the course, and I invite you to go to the course. So for Agrina, the first market is not every farmer in the world, right? It is that very narrow down category of farmers who face transition costs and can benefit from verified soil carbon income because they need to build these crops in between seasons. And they put everything at risk because they need to otherwise put money out of their pocket, and they will not know when then will break even because of the seasonality of the business. So when we go, like Agrina went to a specific category from the whole worldwide farmer market, that is much sharper. And I invite you to be very sharp when you are selecting from a wide range of possible ideal customer profiles. You will select your own, and you will understand what is your slice of serviceable market and obtainable market from that portion. But how do we show that our approach is better than the current alternatives? That is the next step. Please take us to slide number 10. Yeah. So, because we need to, if you are talking about the ideal customer profile, we know that our customer, they already found solutions, or they go for solutions, they go and pay to solve their problem somewhere else. So my question is, what is my customer doing today? And then I need to get an answer when I'm assessing a competition slide. If I cannot understand what my ideal customer profile is doing today, and why should they change what they do to come to buy from me, if I will not see this on the competitive positioning, that it means that they fail to build their competition slide. They failed badly. So I take them to square one. Probably they didn't even manage to put a solution in a mirror with a problem, and probably they didn't even find.
I think Elena is frozen.
And here is where we found a real gap in many situations. Is it okay? Is because I see my screen is wobbly, so I don't know what's happening. Just let me know if you can hear me.
No, we can hear you. You were off for 2 seconds, but we can hear you.
Okay, because I just got electricity off.
I imagine.
Hallelujah. We are still on. Good. All right. So, yeah, that's next slide, please. Yeah, how does the venture venture means your company can capture value and not only create impact, because we are talking about how we actually build this balance between showing the impact our company can create within the system, but then we also need to learn how to show that we capture and create value. That's the slide of the potential of value, and where we have to be very precise about the business model. That means we need to understand, or we need to show to our audience, to share how our customer will pay, for what, and why does the business model make sense. Impact is not enough, as I mentioned. If we add a lot of information about carbon footprint reduction, about packaging that is going to be green, circular economy, how we save waste, it's not enough. We are in a business to make money, to create a viable company that can accumulate value. And because we are not a non-profit, the business model must explain how value is captured. Otherwise, we go the route of NGOs, we go via philanthropy, and we don't need this slide. Probably it's half important. It's still important, but half important. This is where climate tech founders need to be very clear. Who pays, for what, how often, and why is the model repeatable and scalable? Your business model show an important pattern for your audience, for those investors who scrutinize where you are at, what your cash burn, what your runway, when you need to raise first, when you'll be your second raise, for how many years you can go to Series B, C, what would be the company valuation when you're gonna sell. And many climate and bioeconomy ventures are business to business, not that many business to consumer. For example, Agrina, as I mentioned already a couple of times, connects farmer data and carbon certificates to corporate buyers. Lean Heat, this company with the satellite, sells software through Danfoss channels. That's a very good business model. They are very profitable. And then the Infinite Roots sells mycelium ingredients to food manufacturers. And the other company that we mentioned in the course, and I invite you to go to the course to look at their business model, is Biosynthia, which sells ingredients to formulators and brands. So do not assume the end user is always the payer. We need to bring a little bit of clarity on the payer side when you build this business model slide in our pitch deck. We need to also be very clear about the value chain and the value added on the value chain, because you may find secondary revenue channels that could just, let's say, validate the credibility, the trust, validate the trust in your business model strength and how good your company will do, will be ready to be sold in the future. So we need a lot of clarity on the revenue model. It can't be left in the air, or let's say we nailed the problem and solution, we nailed the underlying magic, the technology, we explain it well. And for the revenue, there are assumptions. We can't really know everything from now. Forecasts and cash flows are not important. It doesn't really work that way. We need to bring more clarity in the revenue model from early on. How do we prove this can move from story to execution? It's also a next question. If we have a clear canvas on how the revenue will look like, the forecasts and are predictable, somehow we manage to explain the unit economics, then the next logical question would be, okay, but who will execute this? And let's see what the next slide will tell us. Please bring us to the next slide. So yeah, there will be another slide, very important in your pitch deck, which is how we build the milestone. I would say it's more like a vision board. In many situations, this milestone is not even present in a pitch deck. But then I will ask you, if you are not building product map of like the evolution of your product, if you're not building a milestone map, I'm going to ask you, how do I know that this venture is moving forward? How do I know what's your path forward? I would love to see some dates engraved in time, right? What proof points move the venture forward have to be paired with moments that you reduce friction, or moments when you know that achieving this letter of intent from possible partner, it means that in 6 months from now, I gonna project 500,000 euros in revenue because this LOI was signed today. So show me progressively what will happen in 2026 Q4, that I'm sure that in Q1 2027 you start with revenue. If you start with revenue in 2027, you didn't tell me how did you get to that point, I'll probably not believe you. So I need milestones to show me progressively how you bring in revenue, how you manage to build the company from the ground up. This is what the milestone slide should show me. Investors usually ask about your traction that is actually related to past activities. Probably if you would do a Google search and ask, or ChatGPT will tell you what investor question you might got. Probably you will have a few of those pointing you to what's your traction, what's your milestone. So you should not be confused, and you should not confuse your investors getting this wrong. So when investors will ask about your traction, it means they will ask you about your past evolution, what happened from the inception of your company or from the ideation point to today. That's about retroactive points in your business, important moments that you need to talk about. And then they'll ask you about milestones that are related to future activities only. Don't say my milestone were in 2024 I did that. No, that is traction. All what is related to past, you're gonna somehow accumulate it or cover. That's my traction. What is going to happen in the future? You talk about milestones. That is very important point, and many first-time founders are getting it wrong, and they are confusing the audience, and they are confusing everyone in the room. So how do you unlock the next stage of funding, of partnership, is also mirrored in your milestone evolution. And do not only say, actually, in 6 months we will build the product. I think you must say, in 6 months we will complete a pilot that proves customer adoption. And then you have to show me how you validate performance in a real environment. So what happened in the lab, what happened in your testing time before you build the minimum viable product, you add a proof of concept, and you have to show me all these steps and stages within the milestone slide. And we will secure the first paid customer by when? Then a milestone should answer, what have we proved? What will we prove next? And what value does that unlock? As I mentioned, I would love to see also company valuation marks or placeholders. By 2027, our company will be valued at 1 million euros because we have proved and validate the performance in a real environment of our project. And who is capable of delivering those milestones? That would be the next question from your audience or from your investor. And next slide, please. Okay. I think everybody believes this is the easiest slide to build and to talk about to your investors. I can prove you wrong, because it is a very sensitive subject, and especially from investors, to believe that this team can deliver and can execute on the plan as it was presented from the problem solution to up to today. And yeah, can this team realize what have been presented in the milestone slide? The team slide is not biography. First of all, we should not just bring in what we know and the titles of these people. We have to build this slide very strategically to secure the execution credibility for our plan. And can this team deliver? It's a very, very sophisticated answer to come with, because we mentioned about the value of that. We mentioned about that many pilots will not see the light of the market because they can't penetrate enough or fast enough to become a real pilot or to secure a letter of intent or to monetize their solution. And we need to prove in this slide that we have the right person with the right capability to understand the customer. So who is the person who understands the customer? And you need to point me there. Who can sell? Who knows to build a strategic sales plan, national plan, international penetration? Who understands the regulation? We know in agri-tech, in food tech, there are many regulatory standards that we need to know about. Who can raise funding? It's another very important question, because in funding we have blended finance, we have European funding, grants and subsidies, and we have the capital funding and equity rounds. Who can manage operations? Okay, so who is the person with operational experience? And you have to be also honest about the gaps. And then there is a technical team that may need a commercial advisor. So you need to build a board of advisors. And then you have a scientific committee, probably. You need a manufacturing partner to be on your subcommittee somewhere there to support you, running the ropes with partners. And the founder may also need go-to-market experience. They should know the market somehow. They should have worked for Nestle or Louis Dreyfus or big corporates, would really build that trust with your investors. Normally, you add placeholders in the team slide for future roles, announcing the vacancies and for which roles you are going to recruit next. Because that honestly will build just trust. You can say, we didn't find that person yet, we are running low, we need to find this, can you help us? And who knows, maybe your investor or your partner will say, yeah, I think I know an advisor, I know a consultant. They will put you in touch with the right person, and here you go. Maybe you found a co-founder, maybe you found your next salesperson or the operation person. And I could tell you more about how to build a board of advisors, but we will not have the time just yet. you can reach out to me if that would be something you would like to go more into details. Please take me to the next slide. And we will reach to the end of this presentation very soon. That's a very important slide. The ask slide is actually what are we asking for is the question. From the investor point of view, when they look at your slide, they would like to understand what are you asking for and what will it unlock? Well, it will take you. For example, if we are talking about an investment deck, if you have 500,000 ask capital funding, they would like to know what can be done with this 500,000. A strong ask connects resources to milestones and milestones to value creation. Remember that we were talking about value creation in the very beginning. Now we are at the realization of value, as you can see. So the proposal should not be, we need this money, and then we will raise a Series A or we will raise a seed round. No, doesn't work like that. Here, you need to go a little bit more into details, and it's again a very sensitive slide. A strong ask connects resources to milestone. For example, as I said, we need this amount of funding or that support, and you need to point your audience, your investor, to a specific part of your business. You need marketing, you need working capital, you need some capex, some investment to put up a production plant. And then with this, we can reach this milestone, which creates this value for the investor too, because the investor will also need to understand what is it in it for them. Your business partner will need to understand what is the need for them as well. That is the funding stage logic. It also has to be reflected in the company valuation. So is it also something that you were thinking about? Because in terms of company valuation, you need to make sure you will not dilute the company too much, because if it's an equity round, you will need to get to a compensation of equity, so you will give equity in exchange for money. So normally for the early stage, you will not give more than 30% equity to be very specific. That will dilute control in the next rounds. And I would like to leave you with an idea that a grant, a pilot, and an agent round and a VC round, all you need is to bring the evidence that you have the right people to build the execution, to deliver what you have promised, and you also have to show cash projection, where you will need to show your runway. So normally, in terms of unit economics, this has to be covered within 18 months runway, and only then you could come back and ask for a second round, or this would be your pre-seed, and then you will raise your seed within 18 months to 36 months, you raise your seed round or Series A round. I would like to close this session, and thank you so much for your attention, with a few points that we can reflect a little bit more on them, or anytime you will come to pitch to a different audience, you can come to this slide and remind yourself how you can communicate as an entrepreneur and what can you do to master the Q&A, which I mentioned it is very important part. And then my question would be, what happens when the audience challenges the story you just learned how to craft it as a 360 degrees? And what is happening then when you get probing questions? In many cases, investors will just want to test the waters and they will ask a very funny question, I would say, because they need to know who are they talking to. So don't expect too much courtesy. Don't expect too many explanations from them. You really need to get prepared. What I can say, the truth is, the Q&A is where trust is built or lost. Now we bring everything together. You just have to communicate simply, tell a story, be authentic, avoid technical overload, prepare for the Q&A, because Q&A is where trust is built, actually. And also with Jamal here, we can tell you that what is best to prepare a pitch of 20 minutes and leave 10 minutes for the Q&A, because normally you get only 30 minutes with an investor. What would you do? Would you go for pitching long, 20 minutes, and leave 10 minutes for the Q&A, or you would pitch for 10 minutes and leave 20 minutes for the Q&A? So the answer is, you prepare to pitch 10 minutes and leave 20 minutes for the Q&A. So then is the heavy lifting. Never guess. When you don't have an answer to a question, you can pause and say, let me write this down. I will come back to you with an email. So then you get the opportunity to build rapport with your investor. You will get their email address and you will go back well prepared, fully packed with answer to that questions. And there you start building relationship and build trust. Never lie. Know your numbers. Repeat a question if it's not clear. Think before answering. Answering briefly is not really permitted, I would say. You can stay calm. And please use the value story checklist. And thank you so much for your attention. So what is the takeaway you want to remember? I would like to hear probably if you have questions. But then right now, I think we will go for a break. You learn the 3 layers: source of value, potential of value, realization of value. And thank you all, and I will see you in lesson 4. Get ready to launch.